We are going to start Chapter 2 today with Section 1, Solving Linear Equations and Inequalities. So this is a review from Algebra 1 and actually pre-algebra where we learn to solve equations. So an equation is a mathematical statement that two expressions are equivalent. So an equation has an equal sign. The solution set of an equation is the value or values of the variable that make the equation true. So if we can plug a 2 in and it works and we get the right answer, then that is a solution. That is an answer to the equation. Sometimes there's more than one number that works, and sometimes there's just one, and sometimes there's not any of them. A linear equation in one variable is just something that can be written in the form of ax equals b, where a and b are constants. So for instance, 2x equals 4, and a can never be 0 in this case. All right, so for example 1, Steve Fawcett set a 24-hour hot air balloon record of 3,186.8 miles on July 1st, 2002. Suppose a balloonist has traveled 1,239 miles in 10.5 hours. What speed would the balloonist need to average during the remaining 13.5 hours to tie the record? Well, we know the answer is the total is the 3,186.8. So we want it to equal that. We also know that the distance already traveled by this person would be 1,239, and that they have to add on some more travel time. And we don't know the average speed, but we do know they have to go 13.5 hours. So we're going to have to do 13.5 times their speed. And I don't want to use S because it looks a lot like a 2. So I'm going to use a T. So then we have to solve this to figure out what their average speed would be. So I am going to subtract the 1,239 from both sides. And on this side, they would cancel out, and I would have the 13.5 t left. And when I subtract over here, I get 1947.8. And then I would have to divide both sides by 13.5, so, since that's multiplication. And we would get t equals about 144.3. So this person must travel about 144 miles per hour for the remaining 13.5 hours in order to tie this record. Example 2, we're going to have to solve for y here. And in order to solve, we can do two different things. We can first just divide by that 5 since it's being multiplied out there. And we would have y minus 7 left, and 25 divided by 5 is 5. And then we can add 7. So we get y equals 12. The other way to do that would be to distribute that 5 first. So 5 times y and 5 times negative 7. So that would leave 5y minus 35 equals 25. And then we would add 25 to both sides, or sorry, 35 to both sides. And we would have 5y equals 70. And then we would have to, no, not 70, 60. Then we would have to divide by 5. And 60 divided by 5 is 12. So we get the same answer, just whatever's easier for you, you can pick that method. All right, now this one, notice that we have W's kind of all over the place on both sides of the equal sign. There's a couple of them on the left-hand side. So we have to simplify before we can start to solve this one. So I am going to distribute the 3. 3w, and then 3 times 7 is 21, minus 5w equals w plus 12 on this side. Then I still have 3w and negative 5w over here, so that's negative 2w plus 21. equals W plus 12. Now I have W still on both sides of the equation, and I always say that the best way to go about this is to move the smaller one, because that alleviates some of the extra negatives that we have to work with. And we don't want to work with more negatives than we have to, because sometimes we forget to carry them over when we need them, and then we get the wrong answer. So I am going to pick the -2 since it's smaller than the 1, and I'm going to add 2W to both sides. So I have 21 equals 3W plus 12. Then I'm going to minus 12 from both sides. I have 3W equals 9. And then we're going to divide by 3. So W equals 9 divided by 3 is 3. And then a couple of vocab words here: identity and contradiction. Identity is an equation that is true for all values of the variable. So that means when we solve, the variable is actually going to cancel out on both sides of the equation, and we are going to get an equation or a statement that's true. So maybe we end up with 2 equals 2, or -10 equals -10. If we end up with a true statement at the bottom, then that has infinitely many solutions. And what that means is we can plug any number in and the equation will work. Now, a contradiction is an equation that has no solution. So the variable is still going to disappear in a contradiction, but our end result is going to be something that's not true. So we might have something like 2 equals -5, or 10 equals 0. It's not true, so there's no solution. That means there's nothing that we can pick to plug in for the variable that is going to work in that case. So for example 4, we're going to solve here. And notice on the left-hand side of the equal sign, I have 3x and I have a 4x. So I'm going to combine those. So that's 7x. And then I have that plus 5. And then on the right-hand side, I have 7x plus 5. So right here, you can see they're both exactly the same. So that tells me right now it's going to be an identity. But if we keep solving, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Both are positive 7x's, so I'm going to minus 7x. And I would have 5 left on this side, and I would have positive 5 on that side. So 5 equals 5. That's true. So this is an identity, and there's infinitely many solutions. Now moving down to part B, I'm going to have to simplify. I have to distribute this 8 on the left-hand side. So 8 times y is 8y. And 8 times 7 is 56. And then on the right-hand side, I have 6y and positive 2y to put together. And that's 8y. And then I have a minus 8. So if you look here, they both have 8y, but the left-hand side has 56 and the right-hand side has -8, and that's definitely not equal. So if I continue solving, I'm going to minus 8y from both sides, and I would have 56 equals -8 left over. Definitely not true, so that's a contradiction, and there are no solutions to this one. Reminder now, moving on to inequalities, that if we multiply or divide by a negative number, our inequality is going to flip itself, and that's only if we multiply or divide by a negative. So for this example, we have to solve this. We're going to treat that inequality sign just as if it was an equal sign and figure out what x is here. So the smallest x is just 1x, so I'm going to subtract an x from both sides. And I'm going to have 8 equals 4x minus 1x is 3x. And then I have plus 17. Then I'm going to subtract 17 from both sides. I'm going to have a -9 equals 3x. And I shouldn't be saying equals or writing equals because that is not the symbol. And then I'm going to divide by 3. And I have x is less than or equal to, and the -9 divided by 3 is a -3. Now, I divided by, this is what I divided by. I divided by a positive 3. Even though that 9's negative, we divided by 3, and 3 is positive, so we're not going to flip that inequality sign. If the 3 would have been negative, then yes, we would have to flip that. So I'm going to rewrite that. So the x is first. And I'm just going to make sure that if I look at the inequality sign, it's open towards the negative 3. So I'm going to keep it open towards the negative 3. And now we have to graph this on a number line. So I always put whatever answer I have, if I have to draw my own, in the middle. So negative 3. Down here would be negative 4, and this way would be negative 2. We have to put a circle around the answer that we got of negative 3. This is underlined, and if that's underlined, it's including the negative 3, so we have to fill in our circle. If we didn't have that equal to part there, we would leave that circle open. And then x is less than negative 3, so we're going to shade the line this way. And that would be our graph.